Hi and welcome back. Today I'm going to show you how to remove the cassette from your rear wheel.
Something like this.
The reason for removing the cassette from your wheel could be to replace it with a new one. Could be to give it a deep clean and some degreaser, not that it should ever become that bad, or maybe it's the next step in your mission to stop that horrible creaking noise that you could be experiencing from pedaling under load. Tools that you will need are a chain whip, a cassette tool, and something to attach to the cassette tool to loosen and tighten the lock ring. I have my torque wrench so that when it goes back on I can torque it to the recommended figure, but an adjustable spanner will do just fine if you haven't got one of these. Oh, and I do also have some grease at the ready. Firstly, we need to remove the wheel from the bike. Okay, so now we need to take the chain whip. It's got two pieces of chain attached to it. There's one piece which is attached at both ends, a short piece. Okay, and there's a longer piece which is attached at one end. Now how you use this is you find somewhere kind of in the middle of the range of the cassette. If you try it on the top ring, especially on a higher range cassette, you might find that it will keep pinging off because there's not enough chain to go around and grip. So I'm going to go kind of midway. I'm going to push the short section onto the chain ring to start with, and then just wrap the other section around to hopefully give us a good hold, like so. Then you want to take your cassette tool, poke it in the lock ring. Okay, and at this point, this is where you want to take whatever you've got to hand, whether it be an adjustable spanner or a torque wrench like myself, to undo the lock ring. So whilst I'm pulling the chain whip towards me, I'm going to be pushing this other wrench away from me. There we go. Now that's probably enough now just to finish undoing that by hand, like so. Before I actually take it out, I'm just going to put the wheel flat on the workbench. Okay, the reason for putting it flat is so when I finish undoing this lock ring and take the cassette off, there's less chance of me losing the bits all over the place. So the lock ring itself is here. I'm going to leave that in the cassette tool, ready for reassembly. When it comes to removing these, try and keep them all in order. It will save you time when you go to put it back together. You will find that you will have rings that are completely separate. There will be a carrier which on the back here carries the first four of the gears. They will all be stuck together, but the spaces in between, if you can keep it all together, then that's great. So I'm just going to lift it off like this in one piece and then just set it down to one side. Now another thing to look out for here are any spacers. So this one, there's a spacer on the bottom. Again, take that off, put it to one side. At this stage as well, if it's the first time you've taken your cassette off, you may have a spoke guard which is basically sitting behind the cassette. It's just a piece of plastic which it's there to stop the chain running into the spokes and causing damage. If you've got your limit screws on your derailleur set up correctly and your gears are indexed correctly, there's no real need for this. Some people call it a dork disc. Basically, if you have got one on your bike and you want to remove it, put it in the recycling bin. One thing I didn't mention, if you actually have a SRAM XD driver body, you won't have a lock ring that's going to come away from the cassette. The procedure's the same, the tools are the same. You just want to keep undoing the lock ring itself, and then the whole cassette with that ring will lift away. I'm now going to take a rag and just wipe down that driver body from any old grease or grit or sand that could be in there. If you find that there is no grease in there whatsoever, this could be the cause of some creaking from your bike, especially if you've checked out the threads on your pedals, greased the threads on your pedals, checked out your bottom bracket, tightened up your mech hanger on the back, or cleaned your mech hanger on the back and reattached it and greased it, and it's still making a creaking noise. This is definitely something that you might want to check out and just grease up. Once you have a clean driver body, you're going to want to put a small amount of grease back on there. This will help stop any noises from the area and will also eliminate the chance of your cassette fusing to the driver body over time. Now with the wheel in the flat position again, it's time to start reassembling. So I'm going to start with the spacer that I removed, which was the last thing that I took off. Now you will see that you'll find when you try and put it on, it's only going to go on one way. There's these little, you've got the grooves around your driver with this type, and there's one groove which has got a bigger space. So if I spin that around a bit, it's here, that's the bigger space. You'll see it once you spin it around and compare it to the others. Now on this spacer I have a little bit here which is supposed to go in that bigger section. Once you've lined it up, it will go straight on. Okay, next up is the cassette. So picking it up carefully, again just thumbs on the top, fingers on the bottom. You want to see if you can find out where that bigger section is, and I can see it. Just going to turn that around a bit that way because I think mine is nearer the back. Once you've got it right, again a little bit of jiggery pokery, and then it should all drop down into place. Okay, last up is obviously the lock ring itself. Now I am going to put some grease on the lock ring threads. Okay, you can either apply that on the inside here or on the threads of the ring, which I'm going to do. It's just easy for me to get onto there. You don't need lashings and lashings. Just enough to coat those threads over. So now I'm just going to place the lock ring back on there, flip it over and start to do it up. Now go slow. If it's cross-threaded, you're going to know pretty much straight away because it's not going to go in very easily. And you'll notice as well you do not need to use the chain whip for installing. You'll find as you're doing it up, you'll hear a little noise. That just means it's getting a little bit tighter. I'm going to do it as much as I can by hand. We know that's not cross-threaded whatsoever. And then it's time to actually torque it down. Now with this one, and pretty much most lock rings, the recommended torque figures are 40 Newton meters. So with the torque wrench set to 40 Newton meters, it's now time for me to torque this back up. So cassette tool, yeah, the cassette tool is in there already. Just going to attach the torque wrench itself, and as you tighten it, you're going to get more clicking. That's completely normal. What I'm going to do is I've got my hand down here as well, so sometimes the clicking from the lock ring tightening itself, it can disguise when you've actually reached your desired setting on the torque wrench. So with my hand down here, I'm going to be able to feel when it clicks. That's it. So that's all set. Take the lock ring away, take the torque wrench away. Now you just want to make sure that you've not got any play here. So just grab the cassette. I'm just trying to see if I can get it to wobble at all. Depending on the type of hub you've got, if it's a budget hub, you may find you've got a little bit of movement there, which will be absolutely fine. That's not a problem. If it's really bad and really loose, there's a good chance that you've left a spacer out somewhere. So just double check to see if you've got anything else laying around, and then you might need to take it apart and reinsert the spacer. Okay, so now we've done that and that's all torqued back up, it's time to get the wheel back into the bike. At this point, whether you've got a through axle or a quick release, you've got your grease out, just put a bit of grease on that spindle itself just before you put the wheel back on. Now you've got your wheel back on, it might be worth just to run through the gears just to make sure that everything is still good. You may also find that you might need to recenter the brake caliper if you've got a little bit of rubbing there. That's it. You've made it to the end. Let us know how you got on in the comments section down below. If you have found this video helpful, give us a thumbs up. Whilst you're there, why not subscribe to the channel and hit the bell of notification so you don't miss out on any future content. So until next time,